Welcome, you beauties, to Hot Garbage Sports. I'm Coach Ryan D, and today we're gonna blow up advanced analytics. Advanced analytics don't work like you'd want them to work or expect them to work. It is garbage in, garbage out. So stick around to the end, and I'm gonna summarize for you my 20,000 hours of coaching, scouting, player evaluation experience, and I'm gonna help you be a better armchair GM, coach, and talent scout. Roll the intro.
Here's Lemieux, the center penalty coming up. Look at Lemieux. Oh my goodness. What a goal. Oh, baby.
So hockey coaching is frankly more complex than the Fibonacci spiral, string theory, and quantum mechanics put together. And if you don't believe me, try dealing with hockey parents. But don't take my word for it. If you want to know what coaches think about advanced analytics, let's ask Paul Maurice. Paul? But Ryan, advanced mathematics and data science is the way of the future. Hey man, I totally agree. Metadata and data science is the way of the future. The problem is there is no way in the game of hockey today, because nobody has built a program to it, to have an automated intelligence system go ahead and capture each individual's player skills, movements, tactics, and mental capacity, to be frank, and then put that together to come up with the best strategy and team tactics. I want to thank everybody for watching my videos, liking, subscribing, and smashing comments below. And remember, elevator's on floor 1 right now. We're on our way to 1,000 subs. Time to get on. Just it's right there. Just click it. Just click it. Click it. So a great example that people like to use is baseball. What makes baseball and football even different from hockey and basketball? Baseball has a very well-defined start and stop mechanic during the game. You can categorize a predictable statistical outcome for every scenario in baseball and play the odds. They have stats for everything. A left-handed pitcher on a rainy day, 3 miles above sea level, throwing when his mom had an argument with his dad. They probably have a stat for that. But hockey, there is no defined start and stop period. You can have a time go for 1 second. You can have it going for 5 minutes without a player interruption. And the tactics of hockey, you are trying to create 2-on-1s all across the ice, whether you are on offense or you are on defense. You are trying to keep puck possession or take puck possession back from the other player. And in order to do that, you are using a very long list of complex variables, including individual skill, team tactics, and strategies to do so. So pop quiz then. Let's see where your hockey IQ sits at. How do you know if you're on offense or defense? If you answered you're on defense when you don't have the puck, you're correct. If you answered that you're on offense when you have the puck, you're also correct. A lot of people will get broken down between player positions. Is he a forward? Is he a defenseman? People will get broken down between the zones, offensive zone or defensive zone. And then there's that whole pesky business of what happens when no one has control of the puck. Called in dispute, you want to go get that puck. So there's 2 advanced analytics stats that I want to make a quick mention about here. Corsi and Fenwick. They're basically the same. You go ahead, you take out some block shots or you put some block shots in, you'll get a different number for both. If you want to know about Corsi and Fenwick, I'll leave a link down below to allow you to go out there, Google it and learn it. But I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time breaking it down or explaining it, because if you're at this video, I assume you probably know what that is. And if you don't, that is A-okay. Feel free to check it out below. All right, let's talk about the 3 categories that hockey is built into. Category 1 is individual skill. Individual skills include, well, the 5 basics: skating, puck control, passing, shooting, and checking. And think of a pyramid. Skating is on the bottom. If you cannot skate, you cannot play this game. Not anymore. You must have a solid foundation of skating. Skating is the most important skill in hockey and leads to success in every other category. If you're a bad skater, you can't play the game. Puck control. You can't be a good passer or shooter if you don't have good hands. You have good hands that will lead to good passing. If you're able to make good passes, that will end up leading to good shooting, and all of those will end up funneling into somehow, I don't know, checking's on its own, but basically you got to be a good skater to check. Also a little bit big and tough, but skating more important than being big and tough. So that's step 1, the individual skills. Number 2 is your mental capacity or your psychological toughness and your IQ for the game. This is a whole nother category broken down between how you understand the game, your work ethic, your love for the game, your development, your ability to have an emotional quotient and work with your players, teammates, and coaches within the room, as well as the referees and opposition. It also determines how you deal with stress, how you deal with pain, how you deal with being benched, how you deal with how many minutes you have. Your mental profile is number 2. And then number 1 and number 2, your individual skill plus your mental profile and makeup are going to allow the coach to categorize you and his 19 other players into team tactics and systems. Your coach is going to pick his team tactics and systems, if he's a good coach or she's a good coach, based on the makeup and profile of their team. Great coaches can adjust to this. Poor coaches force it into a system. There's both in the NHL and both have found success. John Tortorella has one way of coaching, and it won him a cup. He needs his general manager to bring him players with a specific makeup for his system to work. Other coaches in the NHL, like Alain Vigneault, have a very good ability to adjust to the players around them. Barry Trotz is another great example of this. Okay, so we really haven't attacked advanced analytics yet, but we will. I promise we're going to get there. Here's a fun fact though. Hockey IQ plus talent plus work ethic equals an elite player. We know this. Hi, Sidney Crosby. However, when you think about removing those three categories, talent, work ethic, and IQ, and which ones can go away, it's very interesting what ends up remaining. We all want to think that if you have high hockey IQ and high work ethic, things are going to work out well for you. Sorry to say, they're not. Talent actually becomes one of the most important indicators as to how you are going to be as a hockey player, because without talent, meaning without individual skills, you are really unable to compete at the NHL level today, and all of these guys are supremely talented. But the more talented you are, the longer you're going to last in the league. So we know IQ, talent, work ethic equals an elite player. But what about low IQ, talent, and work ethic? That still equals a pretty good player. What up, Jacob Trouba? That guy is dumb as a sack of hammers. He can only play on one side of the ice, which is the right-hand side. He goes north to south. He has his patterns that he follows. And if you try to change a system on him from what he learned when he was 12 years old, it is not getting through that cinder block of a head. But he's still a viable $8.5 million NHL defenseman. And then what happens when you have low hockey IQ, high talent, and low work ethic? Well, shocker, you actually still make the NHL, and sometimes you can even be drafted first overall. What up, Nail Yakupov? Nailed that one, Edmonton. Okay, so now let's get to Corsi and Fenwick. Corsi and Fenwick spit out an output for how we think a player is doing in a particular scenario of the game. But the problem is we have an accurate output, but we have no idea which input is causing or affecting the output. So we now know we have individual skill, mental makeup, as well as coach tactics and coach strategies, as well as your team makeup. All of these things are going into spit out a Corsi and a Fenwick, but we've got to go another step lower. Let's go ahead and start with individual skills and break down what goes into hockey. Let's go to the Hockey Canada website because it's easily repeatable for anybody watching this to go check out. Hockey Canada defines this as their main skill tree. When we're looking at their main skill tree for the U15 to U18, and you might be thinking, Brian, these are children. Do not forget that U15 to U18 play in the CHL. They are mentioning the highest level athletes in this category. We are talking about players that are going to go in the first 3 rounds of an NHL draft, also play for Team Canada and the World Juniors. So chill out. You may think they're kids, but they're future NHL superstars. Okay, so we have skating. Let's break down skating for you. Strong on their feet, stride, edges, transitions, and pivots. Are you with me yet? Can you break down every single player in the NHL into those 4 categories? Can you figure that out through your Corsi and Fenwick? I doubt it. How about change of direction, acceleration, crossovers, stability, power, and agility? Is that going into your advanced analytics? They're going in, but you're really unable to determine if that's the reason your output isn't very good. And then we have things like it just goes on, and each one of these goes down into more subcategories all the way down to age 6, which breaks into the basics of how to skate in hockey. And the reason Connor McDavid is the fastest player in the world and the best skater we've ever seen is because he has mastered more of these skills more efficiently than anybody else. That's just skating. You move into individual and offensive play, control, carrying the puck with speed. Can you skate with the puck on your stick full speed, or does your speed change? We measure these things. It doesn't come out in Corsi or Fenwick. The output does, but you cannot tell me that their Corsi or Fenwick is bad because of this particular reason. How about dekes, body fakes? Let's just keep going down the list. I mean, if you want to pause, have a quick read of it, go for it. You can also find it on the Hockey Canada's website below. Okay, let's look at the next thing. The Hockey Canada World Junior Championship Tactical Booklet. They only put the first 7 pages because they don't want to give away their offense, defensive, and team strategies, but they really start telling you about what the game of hockey is built around within Hockey Canada. And trust me, if Hockey Canada is doing it, it is happening in the NHL. They are like this. Hockey Canada is one of the more, if not the most advanced hockey mind in the world, even still over bigger up-and-coming countries like Russia, the United States, Finland, or Sweden. They all have their own amazing boards, but Hockey Canada still leads. So why do I bring this up? Well, take a look at the offensive and defensive zones here. pressure, puck control, support, and transition. A player's Corsi and Fenwick is going to be dictated based on how the coach creates his system around these 4 principles: when to pressure, when to contain, how many players to pressure with, how many players to contain with, what the transition game looks like, how many players you want in the transition game moving up together. However a coach is going to compile his system, it's going to change the Fenwick and the Corsi of that player. And finally, every coach of every NHL team, and frankly, all the way down to 13-year-old AAA, is going to create a document that looks something like this. Again, it's a template coming from Hockey Canada, but this is going to give you an idea of how a coach and a scout break down the individual skills for each player. You have your 20 players across the top. Doesn't look so bad right now. We have skating. Okay, I can probably sit here as an armchair GM and go through NHL players and break down about 9 or 10 of these skating categories. No problem, Ryan. But then I start scrolling down and I see passing and receiving the puck. Well, that's another 12 categories I need to evaluate. How about puck handling? Let's add in another 7. Shooting? Okay, go ahead. Add in another group. 1 versus 1 offense. Oh boy, don't 5 players play on the ice? That's just one category. How about checking skills? 1 versus 1 defensive skills? Face-offs? Everyone does have to take a face-off at a time because people will get kicked out. How about thinking skills? That goes into it. My favorite is coachability. Are you a team player? Are you listening? What kind of mental capacity do you have? How about leadership? That's the thing we always talk about or hear about in the NHL. Mental toughness, determination, drive, hard work, intensity, fitness level, positive team player. This is a lot. These numbers are going to move game by game, year by year. What my point is that Paul Maurice, Alain Vigneault, Claude Julien, Barry Trotz, even John Tortorella are very uniquely qualified to go through in vast, complex lists of individual skills, break those individual skills into team tactics, recategorize their players to where they think they need to be in order to find success in a game that has a very limited amount of starts and stops. So once again, I'd really like to know, how does your Corsi tell a coach which one of these he should fix? It doesn't. The coaches have a very good eye and a very good brain that is categorizing this at an elite level. When machine learning and data science is able to use slow motion cameras and break down each one of these skills and categorize them against each other in real game scenarios, which could happen one day, then we can go ahead and start taking over with advanced analytics. So what do advanced analytics do well for us? They give us an indicator that something may be good or may be wrong. That's all it does, but it doesn't tell us the whole story. Neil Pionk with the New York Rangers was considered a bust. If you talked about Neil Pionk being a good player when you were watching the New York Rangers, you'd be laughed out of town. He comes over to Winnipeg, becomes elite. Why is he elite in Winnipeg? It has nothing to do with the fact that he got more ice in Winnipeg and has everything to do with the fact that he fits better in Paul Maurice's system along with the other players, the Winnipeg Jets, and his Corsi and his Fenwick end up improving because of this. So GMs like John Chayka and all these money puck guys that are ending up breaking down statistics and telling you what's going to happen and who's going to win what. I hate to say it, I don't think the game needs them at the level they think they need them at. We've seen John Chayka with the Phoenix Coyotes. He wasn't really able to bring them any success. But when we're sitting here talking about NHL players and you hear announcers online or coaches in press conferences or scouts tell you this guy is good or bad for whatever reason, frankly, if they are a sound NHL mind, they were probably correct. You can break down as many advanced stats as you want, but not really going to help you when thinking of a lineup composition. But if you want to tell me why Neil Pionk, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Victor Hedman, any of these players are truly elite, advanced statistics are not going to do a great job over an experienced coach with a trained eye. It's just not going to happen, team. So then here's a bonus for you. We've just broken down general hockey playing skills. Let's go one step further. Why are defensemen so freaking hard to evaluate? Why does Alex Pietrangelo go in the second round and then end up blowing up? Why does Zach Bogosian get drafted at pick number 4? Well, it's because they're tough to evaluate. They even have their own categories of skills and booklets upon booklets of what it takes to be a highly skilled NHL defenseman. And more importantly, it takes NHL defensemen and defensemen at any level the opportunity to play within that role for an extended period of time before you can determine what you have and how they're going to do in that role. And since there's only 6 defensemen on a team, you need to be able to put them in those scenarios to give them the practice and see how their skills actually stack up in that role. The trouble is there's only 6 spots, and mostly with each team, your top 4, top 5 are established. So it becomes very difficult for a defenseman to break in there and figure out if he's a good fit. And more importantly, it is going to take where the coach is going to put him and where the coach sees him in relation to other individual skill players to give that player a chance. Finally, let's talk about goalies. Advanced analytics work better on goalies than anybody else. Why? Because it is a start-stop game and we can determine based on shooting percentages, statistics, and where shots are coming from, as well as how many screens or movements a goalie has to make as to whether or not they are going to be able to make a save. They are more easily repeatable, like baseball, than the players. However, if you want to sit here and tell me you understand goalies because you understand advanced statistics, I will tell you, you are likely wrong. These guys are the weirdest breeds of people on the planet, and if you're a goalie, you know that. The only person weirder than a goalie is a goalie dad or a goalie mom. You guys are out to lunch. Great people out to lunch. So hopefully this gives you some insight into advanced stats and why advanced stats are so difficult to work with amongst the hockey community who sits here and watches hockey religiously and breaks it down to a skill level of micronutia and nanoseconds. So feel free at the end of this video to send me a chart to show me that I'm wrong, because I'm sure you can go ahead and categorize a player in one simple chart with 4 boxes and a few nice purple lines up in the top right corner, and I will go ahead and torch you in the comments down below as to their skill. If you want a skill evaluation on one of your players, please in your comments, send a highlight package of that player. I don't really feel like hunting and determining why that player is good or bad for you, but if you send me a couple clips of what they're doing, I could probably let you know based on these categories where I think that player sits. Might be an interesting discussion for another video. So thanks for watching. I'm Coach Ryan D. Hopefully we brought you from this level all the way up to this level and you guys had some fun doing so. So remember, advanced stats, kind of there for a bunch of nerds. Nerd. Bye.